Witnesses say the guy we're after looks like this.
If you can tell me in your own words,
He shouldn't be too hard to pick up.
who the fuck is W?
Down here.
Who the fuck is W?
Who the fuck is W?
I would say W is an artist that is that specializes to pick a category in the urban experience and lifestyle. A lot of my stuff is rooted in music and hip hop culture mixed with traditional illustration. You know, that's what I do.
Okay. So why art? What compels you to create?
Well, it's probably one of the few things that I could say I'm good at. You know, growing up, you know, you try a bunch of different stuff, but art's always been the consistent thing. It was a time when I wanted to be a rapper, you know, but it's like, nah, I'll stick to drawing.
I didn't know that about you. I might drop a few bars.
When I gave up.
It's done.
Yeah, it's like, you have to make a commitment.
All right, I'm gonna have to Google search. Maybe MySpace.
There's no evidence of this anywhere. No evidence.
All right, now let's take a step back a little bit. Tell me about your past, where you grew up, where you're from. Tell me what a young Dwayne is like.
Well, I was born in Brooklyn. And then we moved out to Far Rockaway, Queens. And you know, this is like during the '80s, and we lived out there. And it's, you know, it was an interesting community, you know. And during the time, New York was going through a rough patch. It was really rough in New York. We're talking about the Ed Koch years, you know, the Barnard Getz stuff, a lot of crazy stuff popping in the city. And even though we lived out in the suburbs, my mom wanted us to get out of that environment, so we moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
And you know, North Carolina was a complete culture shock. You know, we left New York where it's the city, you know, I could look out in the backyard and see water, and like across was like the Statue of Liberty and airports and all that. And to go to North Carolina where it's like woods and people still had jerry curls. You know, it freaked me out as a kid, you know. But I grew up in a town called Fayetteville.
Okay.
And it's a military base. So there's a lot of military influence in the town, and I grew up there and did that until I went to college in East Carolina. And while I was in college, you know, got a chance to learn more traditional illustration stuff. And after that, went back home, got a job with a newspaper, left that, moved to Atlanta. And then the tale of W, the one that you currently know, starts around that.
All right, and how old were you when you left New York?
I was like 9. I was 9 when I left New York.
You still got a lot of families, like uncles and stuff?
Oh yeah, a lot of my family. So what happened is like my dad's side of the family is from Brooklyn.
Okay.
You know, my mom's side of the family is from Panama. So a lot of times Panamanians moved from Panama to Brooklyn because, you know, there's a community there, a lot of people had family there. And then after that we moved on down to the South, which is another culture shock.
Would you consider yourself happy, and are you doing what you really want to do, you know, both personally and creatively?
Yeah, I mean, being an artist, you know, I don't speak for myself, there's ups and downs. You know, there's challenges, and art is one of the few professions that the better you get at it, the more challenging it gets. So there's always more challenges. It never gets particularly easy, you know, because you get more ambitious in what you want to do, more things you want to try, and the more you know, the more you realize how further you got to go.
Okay.
You know, so as far as being happy, I'm great. You know, I do have ambitions to want to get better. So that's one of the things that keeps me up at night is how can I get better at what I do, and how can I push, you know, further and further and further. And as a artist and as a creative person and even as a curator. So.
Okay. Have any of your personal life experiences, things you read, things you've been through, how has that affected your art at all? Or has it?
You know what? My personal life, definitely, because your experiences and things you get to see bleed into your work. I'll tell you a couple of things that happened. In 2009, I went to Art Basel for the first time.
Okay.
And that opened up my eyes to a bunch of different things, you know. It's cool to have you on your home base, the art scene, you do that, but then when you see that it's a global thing, and you actually see what's coming out of Asia, what's coming out of Europe, what's coming out of other parts of the country, you're like, oh, so this game is a lot bigger than what I'm thinking. So after seeing that and seeing a lot of cats that are in the mural scene as well as the outsider artists, you know, I began to shift in my own work. I'm like, okay, now I can expand past, you know, just drawing rappers.
Okay.
You know, drawing hip hop artists. Like I could actually start beginning to tell a story or start adding my own elements start adding things that I've seen and put it into the story.
How important is it to you to include faces of color in your work? And as a black artist, is it important to be seen as a role model in the art world to the younger generation of artists that are coming up after you with a similar background and story as yourself?
I'll tell you this, I didn't meet a famous black artist until I was 21. I was a young adult before I see somebody that looks like me making a living on a professional scale as an artist. And it's something it's weird because you want to aspire to be something, but you haven't seen any real examples of it. So you're like, I want to do this, but I haven't seen anybody like me doing it. And then I had a chance to see that. And not only had a chance to see that, I had a chance to see people doing well at it. Just living great doing it. And so now okay, it's possible. You've seen there's examples of it. And you know that you can push the envelope further and further and further, and even yourself creatively or professionally and business-wise, you can do this. You see examples of famous artists, everybody got the same famous artists off the top of their head, Picasso, blah, 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 and all that. But they never met these people. These are just brands they know. Things that come with conversation. But when you actually start seeing people and getting to know people who are successful and who are talented and amazing, that you can say by name and be like, yo, I know this person, or hey, I've met this person, I'm personally familiar with this guy's work, that's a whole different conversation. And the more people see that, especially kids see that, they know that, hey, this is possible too. We can be out there, we can say, yo, this is a career that you can pursue, and this is what to expect. And these are the things that happened in our past, in our lives, that doesn't necessarily happen in yours, but just let you know that this is out there.
And who was that artist when you were 21 that you met?
Oh, okay. So here's the deal. So I went to study art in Belize for a month. I did that for a month, came back, actually go back even further. So I'm in college, and are you familiar with Kevin Powell? Mm-hmm. So Kevin Powell came to our school. Okay. And this is like years after he was on The Real World. And after he did his lecture, I went up and talked to him. And then he said, hey, they got this thing called the Black Arts Festival in Atlanta. And I'm like, Black Art Festival? He's like, yeah, he's like all the top artists and poets. And I was really into poetry at the time. It's like, all the artists and poets are going to be down there. And I'm like, really? And I was like, can I get your number? And he gave me his phone number. So I go to Belize, do the whole thing for a month, come back, and hop in my car and drive to Atlanta and crash at a family member's crib. I'm sleeping on the couch, and I have a chance to go to Greenbrier Mall, and I go there and I see all the artists who I've seen their work at print shops there at their table, working, making money, creating stuff, influencing their friends, being a community, and that just blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, they're getting it out here. And after that, I was like, I'm moving to Atlanta. Yeah. It's a done deal. Yeah, I'm moving down here. And then the artist that I met was an artist by the name of Gilbert Young. Okay. And we're still good friends to this day. So I went up to him, he had his table and everything, and I had my portfolio, we looked at it, and we talked for a while. And he gave me his information, and then, after that, I went back home, and years later, I moved to Atlanta, and then I reconnected with him.
All right, what's the best piece of advice that you have been given, and how have you applied that advice to your life as an artist?
I was reading a magazine, and the topic was, what is the best advice you ever given? And the article said, the best advice he's ever given is step back. And that is great advice. And especially for people that are painters, because depending on the scale in which you paint, some people paint small, some people paint large. It's easier if you paint larger to step back. But if you paint small, you get caught up in the details and everything right here. Because you can manipulate it, you can get down, you get the brushes with only a few hairs on it, you can get in there and do what you got to do. But you may not get an idea of what it looks like when you step back, because then you can see the big picture. And now you can see how the colors blend together from a distance, and that makes a big difference in your work. And you could apply that same thing to your personal life. Yeah. Sometimes you get too close to a situation, you may need to take a step back and actually see the whole thing from a broader spectrum.
True.